Joining us now is Stephen Cook, a senior fellow for Middle Eastern Studies at the Council on Foreign Relations and author of The End of Ambition, America's Past, Present and Future in the Middle East. It's good to see you, Steve. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks very much, John.
So this is the deal, though, which the US President, Joe Biden, the current one, proposed early last year, but only now it seems there is, in fact, a deadline. His president-elect, Trump, speaking last week.
If those hostages aren't back, I don't want to hurt your negotiation. If they're not back by the time I get into office, all hell will break out in the Middle East.
Is it overly simplistic to say there is a deal now because of that threat?
I think it is a little simplistic because of President-elect Trump's bellicose rhetoric on the issue. Clearly, the Biden administration and its partners in Qatar and Egypt have been working very, very hard to get this done. I think that President Biden has wanted to get this done before he left office. So there is a meeting of the minds between the current administration and the incoming administration. But there's a lot of political pressure on the Israeli leader and on the Hamas leadership to get this whole thing done and bring it finally to an end. There are diminishing returns for the Israelis in Gaza.
Well, Vice President-elect, I should say, J.D. Vance explained over the weekend what all hell will break out actually means. Here he is.
Regardless of when that deal is struck, it will be because people are terrified that there are going to be consequences for Hamas. Now, what does that look like? I think, number one, it means enabling the Israelis to knock out the final couple of battalions of Hamas and their leadership. It means very aggressive sanctions and financial penalties on those who are supporting terrorist organizations in the Middle East.
Are there similarities here to the release of American hostages by Iran? They were released the same day Ronald Reagan was sworn in as president back in 1981.
Well, history certainly rhymes, but I think this is a somewhat different situation. And I think that the vice president-elect hasn't been paying enough attention to his briefing books. I'm not quite sure what else the United States can provide for the Israelis to help them knock out those remaining brigades of Hamas fighters. In fact, we now know from a number of Israeli and American press reports that Hamas is able to recruit at a greater rate than the Israelis can kill Hamas militants. So it really has nothing to do with the Biden administration withholding or not withholding weapons. And as far as sanctioning those who enable and support terrorism, the United States has a robust set of sanctions on all of those peoples and countries that are state supporters and supporters of terrorism. I think what's happened in recent months is the Iranians have backed away from both Hezbollah and Hamas, leaving Hamas standing alone in the Gaza Strip at the mercy of the Israelis. And they have demonstrated renewed interest in cutting a deal.
Well, on the Israeli side, Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich and among others among the far right describe a potential hostage deal as a catastrophe. Here's part of his tweet from X. This is the time to continue with all our might to occupy and cleanse the entire strip, to finally take control of humanitarian aid from Hamas and to open the gates of hell on Gaza until Hamas surrenders completely and all hostages are returned. So while Hamas may be under pressure to make a deal, is the Israeli Prime Minister sort of on the other side of the coin here, under the same pressure politically not to?
Yeah, this is really the kind of thing that you've been hearing from Bezalel Smotrich and his people for the better part of a year. The right wing of Israel's right-wing coalition is adamantly opposed to any deal, and they call it a surrender. At the same time, whereas the Hamas leadership that's based outside of the Gaza Strip in Doha is interested in a deal and feels under pressure to make a deal, the leadership within Gaza also doesn't want to make a deal, believing that they have still much to gain by continuing the fighting in terms of undermining Israel's international legitimacy. So you have a number of different factions that are opposed to each other, both internally in Israeli politics as well as Hamas internally. And although progress has been made, I don't think that we can confidently say that there will be a ceasefire and hostage deal until the ink is dry on whatever needs to be signed.
Well, there's very little which the outgoing and incoming administrations in the US actually agree on. So with that in mind, here's US Secretary of State Antony Blinken talking about Steve Witkoff, Trump's Mideast negotiator. Here he is.
Steve Witkoff has been a terrific partner in this, and also President-elect Trump in making clear that he wants to see this deal go forward and go forward before January 20th.
The president-elect personally sent Witkoff to the Mideast. Has something like that ever happened before?
Not to my mind. I don't remember anything like this happening. There's only one president at a time in the United States. But again, given the fact that there is an overlap between the incoming Trump administration and the Biden administration and an interest in getting this deal, it isn't surprising that Witkoff went out to the region. He doesn't have the same kind of baggage as the Biden people do with the Israelis, and it's likely that he can take a tougher stand with them than could any of the Biden people.
Stephen Cook, thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you.